The final round of the Blancpain Endurance Series is here at the Nurburgring. Qualifying about to get underway, the normal three-part qualifying session. And of course, it's not just a race that we have to look forward to, it's also championships to be decided. All the teams' trophies are going to be sorted out across the three classes, plus the AM and the Pro Cup up for grabs as well. We'll worry more about that as the session wears on. For now, despite a bit of low cloud, the teams are ready to go. We're told the session is going to start bang on cue. It's a dry road, even if it's a pretty chilly morning here. David Addison and John Watson trackside, OJ Borg in the pit lane. Very shortly, the cars are going to be making their way out on track. John, getting tyre temperature is going to be one thing. Getting a bit of clear track space with 55 cars out there is going to be quite another.
Well, first of all, welcome to a gorgeous morning here at Nurburgring. I mean, this is actually much warmer than the normal ambient temperature we'd expect here, and we've got clear blue skies and dry track. I mean, drivers couldn't want for better conditions. Well, that's a sort of grey, hazy blue, but there are the championship positions.
And coming into this event, Stefan Ortelli and Frank Stippler lead the Pro Cup, 6 points up on the absent Lucas Luhr and Marcus Palteler. Then, outsiders, Nico Bastien and Steph Dusseldorp, they could win Pro Cup ahead of Alex Buncombe, Katsumasa Chio, Wolfgang Wright, they're in with a chance. Danny Junkadea mathematically could win it, but he now joins Dusseldorp and Bastien, so he therefore loses the opportunity to score extra points. Andy Merrick, Guy Smith and Stephen Kane are in with a shout still, and a real outsider, Laurens Vanthoor, sharing with Robin Frins and Jean-Carl Vernet. So the Pro Cup is wide open still. Andrew Palmer along with Jeroen Mull and Fabio Babini given his points back from Monza, where the car won on the road, was then excluded, but the Lamborghini given its victory. And that means that across all four classes this year, we've had a different winner in each race. And it means, too, that we have got no Audi outright victories. The only Audi win has come in the AM Cup. It really has been a wide open season. And I expect this race to be just as open, especially, you see, with 9 points to his name, Morgan Moulin-Trafort, well, he this weekend is in a fully Pro Cup Ferrari, and we don't see Pro Cup Ferraris that often. He shares with the redoubtable Alessandro Pierguidi, who is always spectacular, and Tristan Vautier, and so that's going to be a very quick car as well. So scroll right the way down to Ahmad Al-Hafi with his single point to his name. He's got different co-drivers for this weekend. You can see how many people have scored points within the Pro Cup. The Nürburgring circuit, it's the full version of the Grand Prix circuit that we use. In other words, they go right down to the bottom of the hill, down towards the Dunlop curve. They don't use the little cut-through that is here for the DTM weekend. Next weekend, for example, it gives you a 5-kilometre lap divided into 3 sectors, the first of which, John, is the longest, nearly a minute by way of time.
Yes, unusual. A circuit would have a first sector of that duration, but that's just part of the joy here of Nürburgring. 17 turns, depending on who you last. We've got 15 on our track map, but there is the view looking up, start finish straight. That was the scene of an incident late yesterday afternoon that brought that, what we describe as pre-qualifying session, to a premature end when Matt Griffin was tagged behind from one of the BMWs, the Russia entry, and damage to the barrier on the outside of the circuit was deemed to be too much to be repaired in the time available. So teams lost, the best part of 25 minutes running.
And the AF Corsa team had a long night rebuilding the 51 Ferrari. It is good to go. I can see it in the pit lane as you look at 99, the Steph Dusseldorp Mercedes run by Rover Racing, and Steph Dusseldorp, Nico Bastien and Danny Junkadea, the DTM racer, one of a number of DTM drivers, in fact, on this grid. He's going to be one to watch. Meantime, Audi with pit out, ready to send Stefan Richelme out of the pit lane in number 2. Now, he can't win the championship, but he can play a very important role in who does win the championship, because if he makes a mistake, if he drops the ball, he's going to compromise his 2 championship-leading teammates in that car, namely Frank Stippler and Stefan Ortelli. 333 ready to go. The Renat Salikov, Robert Renard, Norbert Siedler Ferrari of Rinaldi Racing. Very quick car, one Pro-Am, of course, at Monza back at the start of the season, so that's another one to keep an eye to. But with 55 cars, there's going to be an awful lot to look for over the course of not just qualifying, but of course the race as well.
I mean, it's going to be extremely difficult for one car driver combination to find a lap that they don't meet traffic somewhere. I mean, meeting traffic's one thing, but having the traffic get out of your way is the principal thing. Just as a benchmark time, yesterday in the what they call free practice, started at 11 a.m. This is, remember, it's 8:30 a.m., a lot earlier. Track much cooler, ambient temperature much lower. The best lap, that was set by Stephen Kane in the Bentley number 7, 1 minute 55.7. That's going to be the benchmark everybody's looking for. The big maybe difference from what we saw yesterday morning to this morning is that there may be a few more sets or a set of new Pirellis just to give a driver combination, car combination, the chance to have a pop at pole.
Indeed, so still one or two little damp patches offline there, as you saw pit out. Now remember that there's a handful of cars still in the championship that run just 2 drivers, and therefore those cars only come out for Q2 and Q3. This means that the track now is at its, in quotes, quietest. You're looking at about 52, 53 cars being on track, not the full 55. So there's just a slight easing in the traffic. But, of course, by the time you get to Q3, yes, the track is busier, but your car is lighter because you've worked through the fuel, and normally that's where they'll put the quicker driver in. So more often than not, the time for a car is set in Q3.
And as we saw here 1 year ago, this race, 6-hour race, 1 year ago, if you are out of position, relevant to your normal grid starting position, it will take a long time. It'll take the best part of that first session, that virtually 1 hour before you make a pit stop for driver change and refueling, to get anywhere near where you would like to think you should be. So crucial qualifying. I mean, really, this is a big, big pressure moment for those teams, both within the championship battle, but also the teams that are normally at the sharp end of either a sprint or an enduro grid, and they will want to try and get that clear air as early as possible.
75 Audi we had a look at a moment ago. Philip Salaquadra at the wheel of it. It looks like the Spa 24 Hours is continuing, doesn't it? Headlights on as they head up towards the chicane. Early doors, it's 8:32 local time, so it's a real shock to the system. But of course the timetable for Blancpain Endurance is quite condensed in order to try and reduce costs. You haven't got the drivers kicking their heels for days on end, so you arrive Friday evening pretty much, you go do your administrative checks. Saturday you've got free practice pre-qualifying. Sunday you've got qualifying bright and early. 3-hour race, bang, you're on the EasyJet flight home. You can go and pay for it Monday morning.
You may well be. I'll be flying on national airline. Nevertheless, I mean, it is a very compacted weekend, and on top of which there are many supporting events.
Yeah.
So literally the minute these cars finish their qualifying session, the track will be in use. It'll be single-seaters, it'll be touring cars, it could be any number of different things.
So, number 2, Stefan Rochelmi at the wheel. Stefan Ortelli, Frank Stippler, the 2 that could win the championship out of that car, but they've coxed and boxed a bit with drivers across the course of the year. Rochelmi, former single-seater racer, now developing into a GT driver. Interesting, isn't it? As year on year you see more and more young guns coming into GT racing, and you've got, dare one say, 2 of the older guard in Stefan Ortelli and Frank Stippler showing them the way in terms of points scored at the moment.
The problem, of course, is that as we get all these young hot rods coming in, a lot of the attraction from Blancpain Endurance was from what you might describe as gentlemen amateur drivers. And they love endurance racing. It allows them to get into a race, settle in, and enjoy it. And what we're now getting is this sort of contra of the young kids who are running out of places to go in single-seater racing, and seeing a really fantastic opportunity to make a career out of GT racing. But of course, their driving techniques, and particularly in overtaking situations, are a lot more aggressive, and as a consequence, are causing the gentlemen, the amateur drivers, to feel, well, really, we don't want that type of aggressive overtaking maneuver. It's a balance, but the growth of the Blancpain Endurance Series this year has been phenomenal. I mean, talk about packed grids.
And the variety of car as well, as Audi tries to muscle up the inside of Ferrari. That goes to back to what John was just saying about aggressive overtake. Stefan Rochelmi here is on a mission. Look, personal best, absolute best. He'll go over the timing line and go top on a 1:59.7. But then Katsu Masachio in the Nissan goes quicker still. There's Frank Stippler watching on. He was briefly able to see his car go to the top of the times, but Chio-san, there he is, he's now fastest. That car won the 6-hour race this year that moved from the Nurburgring to the marginally warmer climbs of Paul Ricard, and it was the first outright win for the Nissan. Another popular result for Bob Neville's underdog team, and Katsu Masachio was the fastest. Now Vincent Abril has gone to the top in the Bentley.
Yeah, I mean, literally, as cars are going out of the pits, probably on rubber that's pretty fresh, if not new, they're going to find themselves, every car coming across start-finish line is actually going quickest. There's a gentleman driver car, 41, that's now gone quickest of all, 1:58.084. So, I mean, 9 minutes, 58 seconds remaining. You can expect almost every car by the lap is going to be the new quickest driver on the circuit.
Yeah, Gilles Vanelay, quickest in number 41, experienced driver, runs in Pro-Am, former GT3 European champion. So there, Katsu Masachio looks straight away, gets mired in the traffic, powering his way uphill. And now to the top of the times has gone Guy Smith in the Bentley, so it's a 1:56.278 from Guy Smith that puts him at the very top.
Oh, there, well, I think that was probably conceded. The corner was conceded by the Ferrari. Let the Nissan go through. And I mean, if you can get cooperation like that, you can maintain your momentum. Well, you're going to be a happy chap. But for every gentleman around who's going to concede, there's going to be somebody who's going to literally, at the point where you're committed to the corner, just shut the door. And it could get messy. So far, we've not seen too many problems on track through the quicker version of the chicane. Then we've got, there's a real stop-go version which is used for other events. For this, we've got the slightly more easy entry and exit, more attractive in terms of watching the cars through it as well.
So 8.5 minutes on the clock still in this first part of qualifying, as the cars work their way down towards turn 1 again. And there gets Masachio, who heads over the timing line. He's now down to 9 fastest, so it's Guy Smith the quickest from Jean-Carl Vernet. Alex Buncombe watches on. Bob Neville with different headgear today. He's been sporting a very smart flat cap for the rest of the weekend, but he's now gone to corporate headgear, and they're all studying the data. How about McLaren's chances around here? Because they've had a win this season. This is the 59 Perrin Quaife Hobbs Senna car. It was the sister 58 that won at Silverstone, but McLaren don't rule out here. The Von Ryan cars have gone well this year.
Yes, they have. Again, it's going to be about getting the best out of your qualifying, getting your car onto the front, maybe 2 or 3 rows of the grid at worst, and then using that opportunity to make the break and then try to be as clear as you can. It'll be about 10, 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden you'll be up to the tail of the 55 car field, and that's then where your trouble start, because it will be the traffic management, initially catching the slower cars, that will make or break to some degree your opportunity.
So there is 59. It's Bruno Senna at the wheel for this first part of qualifying. To the top of the times, incidentally, now has gone 99, which is the Rover Racing Mercedes, with, for the first part of qualifying, Nico Bastian at the wheel of it.
Yeah, and that's within 0.2 of a second of the best time we saw over an hour-and-a-half session yesterday morning. So track conditions certainly, while they might be cool, the car stopped down and he's in a difficult position. That is the Jaguar, isn't it? So we've got a problem down at the turn 7, which is the Dunlop corner, the lowest part of the circuit. Back to, and this is going to be, some of the drivers are disrespecting the yellow flag. Look,
yeah.
What are they doing? Now, this is never an easy situation, reversing back onto the flow of traffic. The yellow flag is waved, but certainly that would be a double waved flag. Oh, what a mess. What a mess.
So 27, Aston Martin, the TF Sport car. It's Salah Yolok at the wheel of it. And we have a full course yellow now to try and sort that out. Well, the car has got going again, so it can be withdrawn pretty swiftly.
Now, that actually was on the final turn, we call it turn 15.
Yeah.
And very late out of the exit of the corner. I mean, way beyond where most people would be exiting. Let's have a little look and see. Oh, he spun it actually in the middle of the road, and then somehow just the momentum and then trying to get the car straightened up and get it returned round. He drove it into the gravel trap,
yeah,
because he didn't actually manage to make a donut. It's an unusual place to see a car. Couldn't understand how he got there, but there's your explanation.
Salah Yolok's had a fairly trying time in British GT this year with the McLaren and a fair amount of damage, but switching to Tom Ferrier's team and an Aston Martin, life's not getting a whole lot better with that spin. Newcomer to the circuit in terms of racing. He was here a couple of months ago to try and race in the GT4 Championship and had an engine problem early on. We've gone back to a green flag. Bentley looking quick.
And is quick. 154.896. So that is the first car over the 2 days to actually go quicker than any other time. There you can see. Is that a mixture of rain? There's a bit of rain, or is it just the condensation or something? Just, it's difficult to tell whether it is raining or whether that's just moisture.
It's in the air. Yeah.
It's in the air. The air is very heavy at the minute. There's a lot of moisture in the air, and that just might be the moisture on the windscreen. Difficult to see from our commentary booth, but it doesn't look to be raining.
We've got 5 more minutes of this part of qualifying to go. If it does start to rain,
Ferrari wipers are going, coming down into turn 1. Very nice action, that Ferrari wiper, isn't it? It was very, very rhythmic. So out of turn 1 into this never-ending turn 2, which goes into turn 3. Easy to lose the back of the car. almost at that point, we saw the Ferrari just having to make a small correction. Then it pinches really, really tightly again to the left. Slow in, then try to straight line the exit out of 4 as best you can. You can run wide, and if we do see drivers, the car stopped off on the right-hand side as well for some reason. Then the run down, getting up to about 120 miles an hour, 200 plus kilometers per hour, into the downhill turn, and this is quite tricky, turn 5. Get the car over to the left, then back over to the right for turn 6. Fairly long run downhill, good chance to get yourself into position if you're close to another car and make one of those maneuvers. Obviously the way is down, the inside easily defended. Hug the curb all the way around turn 7, then run out to the exit of the track, up to the best sequence of 2 corners, turns 8 and 9, in the dry, on fresh rubber, flat out, but almost, just the balance of the car, just about hanging on, and then release the car on the exit, then a short run down, again another overtaking position up into turn 10. Oh, thank you very much. How was that? Just for a piece of, but that's how you can do it, but of course you need, in this case the Ferrari is running slowly, the Lamborghini is running at race pace or qualifying pace. Then this is what we call the main straight, the kink at turn 12, totally flat, even in the wet, totally flat out. Up to what would be, I think, in most people's view, the principal overtaking opportunities into turn 13 and 14. You've got to be alongside to make the pass stick. And then this is the entry into the pit lane, so we'll not give that corner a number. A very important part of the racetrack, because speed here is time saved. It's only when you see the white line across the road there, or there, or there. Any one of the 3, I think it's the last one of the 3.
Yeah, it's on with the speed board, yeah.
So the speed, so there you're going to go down to 50 kilometers per hour, and the book looks very happy, very smug indeed.
Now, depending on what the weather conditions do, that could be the grid, but we will see. 31 about to head up towards the end of a lap. Andy Soucek is the man at the wheel. It's been shown as Max Buch all the way through the session, but it's Andy Soucek at the wheel, as you've just seen. Max Buch sitting quite comfortably. So Andy Soucek with an advantage over a second here from Nico Bastien. How's 23 Nissan done? 3rd fastest. But the number 1 Audi, which is a bit of an outsider still for the Pro Cup, down in 9th fastest. Now, what are the track conditions doing? Is it starting to drizzle a bit? Looks like it is on that shot.
It's difficult to tell. I mean, the best giveaway is what's on the camera lens. We can't quite see if there's anything on the camera lens. Not certainly at this part of the racetrack coming down into turn 7. Some cars have been using wipers just to clear away. I think it's just the air is so heavy that there is moisture in the air, and that's what's really getting in the windscreens. More than the rain, and the rain we saw certainly on Saturday afternoon, that was rain. What we're seeing now is just drivers once or twice in the lap using the wipers to clear away the moisture that is just adhering to the windscreens.
Well, certainly on the pit straight where we are, it is dry. I've just nipped out to the back of the booth, and it's cold, but it's not wet.
Moisture laden.
Moisture laden,
yes. Air. Heavy air.
So as long as it's dry, then times can improve in the next session because they'll be lighter. See there the 22 Nissan with its wiper busily working as the car heads up towards the Bilstein curve. Number 1, Laurens Vanthoor's car, but it's got, for this session, Jean-Carl Vernet at the wheel. There's some deliberation, I'll worry about that in the race with you, but there's some debate as to whether or not the drivers in that car should have the same number of points, but they've been split apart for 2 races, so there's some fine print of the regs being looked at to see whether they can all still win the championship or whether they compromise each other's point scores by being split apart. It's a rather grey area which is still being researched, but Laurens Vanthoor is the man who has the better chance out of the 3 of them, come what may, and he will bail to the pits.
But wouldn't you think WRT would have worked that out?
Yes.
I mean, nobody else may have done, but the entrant of the car would probably know fully as to what the situation is regarding this splitting of drivers at different times. Back to 59 was Alvaro Parent, and whereabouts are, well, they're not on page 1 at the minute. 8th. Yeah, Bruno Senna at the wheel, according to the times. Yes, they are indeed.
Flag goes out, so Q1 is over. Interesting that this car has stayed out right to the end. By doing so, you kind of get a bit of clear track space, but you lose the chance to do any work in the pit lane in advance of the flag.
Yeah, but the other thing is, of course, getting tyre temperature and trying to get the best out of the tyre. Often is the case, just stay out, and let the track come to you.
Yeah.
And also, because there's been so much traffic on circuit, you're not just going to be able to go out of the pits, dial it in one flying lap and come back in and rub your hands and say it's all done. In the case of the 31 Bentley, it appears that they did do that. They got that clear lap, but or I should say, Senna.
Well, he's 3 seconds down.
Yeah,
three full seconds down in the first sector. It's an in lap, isn't it?
He's coming in. Yeah. The flag's up. He's coming in.
So he could have gone to the end of this and done a time, but it's an in lap. He's bailed from a competitive lap time. He'll come in at the end of it. And then, of course, the teams, many of whom are already at work in the pit lane, get the next driver in, get the car adjusted if needs be, ready for Q2, where things should be even quicker, assuming that it remains dry throughout. So, for the moment, Andy Soucek is the fastest, ahead of Nico Bastian, Katsumasa Chiyo third, Guy Smith fourth, Vincent Abril fifth, Stefan Ortelli, or number 2, the car of Stefan Rochelmi, but already being shown as Ortelli. He's in it for the next part of qualifying. That's 6th. And in fact, Bruno Senna doesn't pit. He stays out for what is a very gentle lap.
Strange. I mean, 2 or 3. I mean, whether he missed the checkered flag or whether he was literally the last car to cross the line before the flag came out, but whatever, the time is 2:03 against a fastest lap of 9 seconds slower. It's slightly strange for Senna to be out there.
Now let's hear from Bob Neville, whose team has got third fastest in Q1 thanks to Katsumasa Chiyo. He is with OJ Borg.
Bob, first qualifying done, you sat in third. Satisfied?
We are, yeah, we're happy with that, especially as it started to drizzle. So, although having said that, it's now stopped drizzling, so it could still be quicker yet in the next 2 sessions.
I've heard whisperings that you'd be happy if it rained.
I would if it rained and just rained. I'm not so keen on the wild card, where it rained and then dried up and so on. We'd just like a routine sort of race if we could.
And just talk me through where you feel you're at in the driver standings and in both cups, because you still have a chance.
Oh, we most definitely have a chance in pro drivers, yeah. It's a straight fight, really, between the Mercedes and number 2 Audi. So, yeah, we're up for that.
And how confident?
We're comfortable. We're comfortable.
And it would be a real achievement for academy drivers to win this series.
Yes, I mean, Wolfgang is an academy driver. He's in that car. He's done well before, so it's not as if he's brand new, but it's always great for the academy to get any success like that.
Bob, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, Wolfgang Reip shares with Alex Buncombe and Katsumasa Chiyo in that car. Change of policy this year from Darren Cox at Nissan to have a full Pro Cup entry. Go back a year ago, you might remember Alex Buncombe from Pro-Am doing great things and leading the race outright, and that, I think, was part of what Nissan saw and thought, hang on a minute, we could do that in every race if we had an all-Pro Cup car. And the plan worked. Adam Hardy there, sitting at his computer, talking to his drivers from Audi number 1. Asking about tyres. Get in the car and I'll decide, says Adam, about what tyres to go on. Interesting policy.
Look, I mean, drivers should be drivers, and of course engineers are there to engineer, and with the numbers of tyres available, and that's going to be a decision that will be made by the team. The driver might have a preference, but they'll obviously want the best set of tyres available when they get into the car, whether it be for qualifying or whether it will be tyres available for the race. Van Thor sits there rather studiously looking at the timing and scorings, and he'll be in the car for the final session, undoubtedly. Yeah.
So Robin Frins will get behind the wheel of number 1, and see who's in charge of that, don't you, the engineers. Right, qualifying 2 is going to start in about 3 minutes' time. Again, it has been judged a wet track, and that therefore puts the onus on the teams to worry about changing tyres, not the officials halting a session to let them change tyres. And it's going to be another fascinating session. This track just a fraction busier and with a lighter fuel load. So this is where we are at the moment. Andy Soucek is the fastest with the 31 Bentley, ahead of Nico Bastian, who went out in number 99. Katsumasa Chiyo, third fastest, ahead of Guy Smith, and then Vincent Abril, fifth in 84, the Bentley run by HTP. Sixth, Stefan Rochelmi. Seventh fastest was 63, which in the first part of qualifying had Adrian Zaug at the wheel. Bruno Senna, 8th. Jean-Carl Vernet, number 1, Audi, 9th. And then Tristan Vautier for the Ferrari French team of Jean Policon, 10th ahead of Hubert Haupt. And then number 32, going strongly, the Aston Martin of Stuart Leonard's team. Oman Racing Team's Aston also looking good this morning. Rory Butcher doing a very good job to be 13th, ahead of the second of the GRT Lamborghinis, Andrew Palmer, being 14th fastest. 15th is where you find a Curie Cost that runs in Pro-Am. Devon Modell doing driving duties first up this morning, ahead of Max Cobalt, and then Philip Salaquada from the re-liveried and re-entered and renumbered Nissan of Sean Walkinshaw, quicker than Michael Brozniewski's Ferrari. Shane van Gisbergen, another new circuit for him. He's 20th, ahead of Gilles Vannelet. Harry Ticknell, ELMS Sports Prototype star, having his first ever GT race, 22nd, ahead of Alexei Karachev. And Ryan Ratcliffe in the 888 BMW, 24th fastest. But we keep on going. 25th was the 333 Ferrari, driven in the first part of qualifying by Renat Salikov, and that in turn ahead of the Mercedes of Kenneth Hyatt, the Jaguar 27th, and then if you scroll down a little bit further you get to Christian Kelders from the AMS, 36th with the BMW. After Saloyoluk's spin, the TF Sport Aston Martin ending up 37th, and the screen is now wiped in anticipation of Q2, which is just about ready to go.
Interesting little fact, or for me it is anyway, the fastest first 5 cars were all front engine.
Interesting.
3 Bentleys, 1 Mercedes, 1 Nissan, of which 2 of those are turbocharged. Not the Aston Martin, the Nissan and the Bentley. So 3 Bentleys in the top 5.
Which is interesting, isn't it? Is it going to stay that way? We'll find out now, because
is it getting darker?
Well, I was going to ask you that once I got the cars out of the pit lane. Green lights are on, out they go, but it does look gloomier.
It looks like somebody's put a grey filter on the camera lenses, and just whatever way the camera was pointing, it really did look as if instead of getting lighter, it looks darker actually as the cars are coming out. I mean, this is Spa 24 around about 10 o'clock at night.
I think the cloud is getting lower. We can see from our vantage point less. You look left, you can't see the first corner anymore. Look across the paddock, you can see less in the distance. I think the cloud is getting lower, but as long as they can see the officials, Marshall's post to Marshall's post, we're good to go. And with such a busy timetable, as John mentioned a while ago, the officials keen to get on with this, but yeah, it looks like the dead of night, doesn't it?
Well, it takes the best part of 10 minutes for everybody to get onto the track. I mean, you could see it's just an enormous field on a 5.1 kilometre racetrack with quite a lot of corners on that, and just is always going to be busy into turn 1, challenging corner, opportunities again for passing, and just the Aston Martin looking a little bit unstable under brakes down at turn 7, again under acceleration up the hill.
Stuart Leonard at the wheel of it.
Just got to get tyre temperature sitting in the pits. The tyres will drop temperature pretty quickly with these low ambience and low track temperature.
So there, staying in the pit lane for now, number 99, which is Steph Dusseldorp, ready to go. New tyres going on. Trying to keep out of traffic, but it's well nigh impossible with so many cars.
Well, I mean, you can go out at the beginning, as everybody tends to do, or you can hang back and let them all do one out lap, one flying lap, on the assumption that if they do a third lap, it'll be an in lap, and if you combine that with your first out lap, you're not going to lose anything. I think you can sometimes overcomplicate things by being over thoughtful. Well, lights flashing on the Phoenix Racing Audi. I think, frankly, to no avail.
So the cars come out of the Coca-Cola curve onto the first flying lap of Q2. And one of those that's early out, with the second of the cars in the line, Robin Fritz in number 1. He's going to be one to watch in this. Stuart Leonard, whose team it is, that runs number 32 Aston Martin. Had that Pro-Am victory at Silverstone earlier on the year, going very strongly indeed.
Yeah, well, he just laid 2 big black lines on the exit of turn 1, and that just indicates that track conditions are not, I think they probably have deteriorated. We can see that certainly the Aston is using its wipers. Like, it's not raining, it's just that there's so much moisture in the air, and with this cloud base beginning to sink over the circuit, it is darker than it was 20 minutes ago when the first session got underway. So getting your tyres up to temperature, the one way you can do it is just to go out and stay out. Depending on the tyre you've put on, if it's a used tyre, it's not going to give you the sort of initial grip and bite that a fresh set or a brand new set is going to provide. So that was what we saw in the Aston just down here 1 lap ago. A little bit of loss of traction on the exit. Looks more stable as it makes its way up the hill into turns 8 and 9.
and it's just got brighter because we can see from where we are a little bit further left and right, so the cloud has just lifted ever so slightly. This is something else that the teams have got to be conscious of all day. The changeable conditions. Bob Neville alluded to wanting a race with one condition, whether it was dry or wet, but not changing all the way through, and he just cannot guarantee the weather at this part of the world. Right, on board in 23 Nissan then. For this part of qualifying, it's the very tall Belgian driver Wolfgang Reip at the wheel. And Wolfgang Reip is one of those former PlayStation Academy winners.
But you know, when you're doing these Academy sessions, can they actually dial in fog, moisture on the windscreen, or is it just, I mean, is it, because that's the difference. I mean, bringing your drivers through, as Nissan have done with the Academy, and they've produced a lot of outstanding drivers, but it is this balance between what is unreality and this is the real thing.
There's a question for OJ to go and ask Wolfgang Reip at the end of this session, isn't it? How true to life is this? Well, at the moment, he's doing a good job behind the wheel. Third fastest, Darren Cox with the beard, nearest to us, the global head of Nissan's motorsport project. We're very pleased with what's been achieved in GT racing this year. Le Mans was perhaps not quite so successful, but Wolfgang Reip third. Fastest, though, is the sister car out of Pro-Am. So 22 at the moment. The Ricardo Sanchez-driven car in the retro livery, the red, white and blue colours, that's the fastest within Q2.
At the minute, though, it is the best part of 3 seconds slower than Andy Soucek did in the Bentley, but this early doors in the middle of this, or early part of the session, there's the number 7 Bentley making its way around. So, personal best in that first sector. We're looking for a bit more purple from that number 7 car. We've got the Audi in second place, Zalaquada's car, fastest third sector, but really, this is the issue. Look, lights flashing in the Bentley. Do you think the cars ahead are going to pay any attention whatsoever? Dave Parker, Audi, staying over to the left, and then one of those magnificent machines out of Stuttgart just ahead, I think it is.
It's not enough of them. Right, so 7 Bentley over the timing line.
Third.
Andy Merrick at the wheel of it. Malcolm Wilson looks on.
These are conditions Malcolm Wilson probably feels totally at home.
Yes.
Just like Cumbria.
Just like Cumbria. Bit of a slide there, look, coming through the exit of the Bilstein curve.
Christopher Mies quickest now, 1:57. Still not seeing the pace that we saw. Again, still we've got 9 minutes remaining time for, but a fastest first sector for 75 Audi, which may on this lap, currently it's in 5th place, may end up being quickest overall. So purple in sector 1, personal best sector 2, and it does go quickest on a 1:55.8, but that's quickest by, well, 0.3 of a second. So the times are beginning now in this second of the 3 qualifying sectors to get down to the pace that we saw from the Bentley in the opening segment of qualifying.
Now Frank Stippler's gone up to second. Frederic Verviche here has gone fastest within this section of qualifying in Q2, and the time that he's done is good enough for second overall. So bear in mind, we're giving you times that are in this segment of qualifying, but then you have to put them into the context of Q1. So Andy Soucek is quickest overall, but Philippe Salaquada now, Frederic Verviche, I should say, is now up to second fastest overall, 1:55.892. Frank Stippler runs third. There's been a correction to what we had in this car in Q1. It was Stefan Ortelli behind the wheel, not as we were shown initially, Stefan Rochelmi. So Frank Stippler now confirmed behind the wheel of it, and third fastest, second fastest within Q2 now. 56.2 is the time. More flashing of the headlights there from the Bentley. And behind is Frank Stippler, who knows his way around here, perhaps better than many, but he's off the road.
I mean, I'm going to say he knows his way around here better than any, but coming out of turn 5 gets it all wrong, and Stefan Ortelli back in the pits, little look of concern on his face as to that's not what you expect from him. No. Mr. Steady is Frank Stippler. I mean, maybe he thinks he's back at Goodwood driving that gorgeous Alfa Romeo GTA or the AC Cobra, but he's in a more modern Audi. Let's have a look and capture. I suspect he got a touch of oversteer. They just ran wide, basically. Yeah. He did the right thing. He just straightened the car up. He didn't try to pull it back, and then he found the tarmac gap to get back onto track. But just goes to show even how hard everybody is pushing in difficult conditions.
Yeah, Frank Stippler, one of the stars of Goodwood last week in Alex Periani's Alfa. There in the pit box for number 2 Audi, Stefan Rochelmi, Stefan Ortelli look on. The drivers of number 1 there as well. Laurens Vanthoor looking at the pictures as briefly fastest was Frederic Verviche, but now fastest Adrian Quaife-Hobbs in 59 McLaren to go second overall, 1:55.831. So in Q2, Adrian Quaife-Hobbs is the fastest in that Von Rahn racing car.
But interestingly, nobody has got within a country mile of the time from the 31 Bentley Andy Soucek in the opening session. He has still got an 0.8 of a second advantage on this car, the 59 McLaren Von Rahn Racing.
Now quickest in Q2, Stef Dusseldorp, so he goes second overall, but still 0.8 back from the Soucek time from earlier on. So John's point is still very valid indeed, that Bentley did a ripper job in the first part of qualifying, nobody yet getting near it. So this car, twitching its way out of turn 6, is now third overall, thanks to Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, and thanks in part to Stef Dusseldorp for going quicker still. Now how's number 2, Frank Schnippler, getting on?
Looks better.
Yeah.
Looks like he's now got, whether it was just, but I mean the idea is fundamentally, I'm going to say, is a twitchy, nervous car.
Not wrong.
Well, there and again, you can see just that little bit of, I suspect he felt the back end was about to give way, and therefore the correction came and running wide over the curb. So what might have been a better lap from the tall German driver is probably going to be lost with that little error up at turns 10 and 11.
So he's 6th in the session, the car's 6th overall, as we have still Andy Soucek the fastest outright. 5 more minutes of Q2 remain. Up towards the line then comes now the Frank Schnippler driven Audi. Stefan Ortelli watches on to see what the lap time is, and it's slightly slower at 56.7. Half a second slower indeed than earlier.
Yeah, I mean that error up at turn 9 and 10 and 11 would have been the reason why there was no improvement. And everything sort of now has gone stable. The 4 and 3/4 minutes remaining. Dusseldorp has got fastest second sector time. We're looking at him now. And the Nissan has gone off just in the final corner.
Indeed so, and that I was going to say would be a yellow flag zone. The car has got going, so Stef Dusseldorp can keep pressing on. He's up behind the Cameron Griffin Ferrari, rebuilt after its practice smash yesterday.
Quickest
goes Stef Dusseldorp within Q2, but he stays second overall, but the gap is down to 0.2 of a second now behind Andy Soucek.
And good lap. I mean, maybe it would have been a little bit quicker because he had to, the Ferrari was coming into play, and I think he might have lost a couple of tenths of a second as the recovering Ferrari got out of the way. So Stef Dusseldorp, good clean lap, used the lap to a very good effect. Here we are on board as it comes through turns 3 and 4, and then this is turn 4 now. Is that 3 and it runs way wide again. We're not seeing many signals or information coming from race control. A lot of car team managers, 44, 41, and others being required to go and see the race director. Abuse of track limits here is probably more restricted to principally coming on to pit straight on turn 15 or going out of turn 4 on the run down to turn 5, but not really seeing any drivers being called or having their lap times deleted as yet.
Now Stef Dusseldorp down in the first sector, so although you're riding with him, the lap is not seemingly going to be an improvement. We've had an absolute best in the last sector, incidentally, from number 31, Maxime Soulet, in the Bentley that's quickest overall. The lap time wasn't any better. And now number 1, Robin Frins, absolute best in the first sector. So the number 1 Audi is the best of anybody within the first sector. So the number 1 Audi is going to be looking pretty promising here, I think.
The Nissan Martin Plowman, 173. It used to be called number 73, is now 173. Fastest 154.990, just over a tenth of a second. No, 94 hundredths of a second now behind the time set by Andy Soucek. So suddenly, and we've got 2 and 3/4 minutes remaining, the Nissan plants itself squarely on the provisional front row of the grid.
Absolutely, great job done by Martin Plowman, 94 thousandths back. Now what about Robin Frins? Absolute best sector 1, personal best sector 2. So there's where he's going to slot in terms of Q2 in isolation, but also where number 1 is going to be overall at the moment from Q1. The car's 17th overall. Jean-Carl Vernet's time set to be bettered by Robin Frins, the Dutchman who goes 3rd in Q2 and 4th overall.
Look at the look on the face of Laurens Vanthoor. Disappointed, I would say. I think he thought maybe that lap could have been good enough to get a provisional front row grid position in its best of the rest in 3rd. nevertheless, I think Lawrence Van Voort wanted to see number 1 come out quickest overall. But interesting that Nissan have really taken the fight for that front row grid position. There is the car just in the background. There's just the 173 with it again further revised. And I say, I like that. I think it's, you know, it sparkles.
The colour scheme, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's reminiscent of the Vita 4-1 colours we had a few years back, isn't it?
So.
But new team, new number, new entrant, and it's all working well because the car showing much better pace seemingly. Martin Plowman, another of those much underrated British drivers, he's done the gun time to go second overall then. And is he going to pit or is he going to stay out? He'll stay out for one more lap.
Yes, he's just been backed out of it because traffic ahead. So now resets the clock and goes again. So we'll get one flying lap and then the flag will be out. And that time kind of came from nowhere, indicating, again, to me, good work on the car, progress on the car, but mainly you don't find lumps of times like that other than having a new set of tyres.
So over the timing line to go 8th in this part of qualifying, Rob Bell in the orange Von Rahn Racing McLaren. 8th overall as well, he is now. Remember, 1 or 2 times better in Q1, so what you have outright isn't the same as the Q2 order. Gaetan Palatu, another of the PlayStation Academy winners, good to go. In the background was Alex Buncombe getting ready. Dan Jonathan there, former racer himself. Now, what about Robin Frintz on this lap? Down in both sectors, I'm afraid. So it's not looking too flash. He goes over the timing line. He'll squeeze another lap out if he wants it, but no improvement there.
I mean, other than just getting a bit more knowledge, I don't see any benefit for staying out. I think you want to bring it in and hand the keys over to Laurens Van Voort and see if he can take that number 1 Audi from provisional second row of the grid up onto the front row of the grid. As, I mean, inevitably, you're going to put your top driver in this final segment.
Absolutely. So this is where you expect the times to be set, as we get a replay of the 22 Nissan going off the road. Ricardo Sanchez was the driver. Now, we'd seen it recovering. Is that the same incident or is that a second one?
Not.
It's the same one up at the turn 15.
Yeah, from a different angle.
Yeah.
So you can just see if the camera's facing one way, you get actually reasonably good daylight.
Yes.
If it's facing the other way, it's like nighttime.
All right, flag out then. So some heading for the pit lane so they can do the driver change early. Others staying out to the very end. 59, which was going well earlier, wasn't it, when it had Adrian Quaife Hobbs up at the top of the times, dropped to 5th in the session.
Yeah, personal best first sector, nothing in the second sector. Let's see. He certainly runs the curb, keeps good momentum off. Turn 14, then this long, sort of 180-degree almost corner onto the pit straight. So is this car going to, it's well 5th, so stays 5th in fact.
Yeah, the lap time is better, but stays 5th, the 55.582, so the time is better, but the position doesn't change. 5th in Q2, 6th overall. Fascinating qualifying, isn't it?
It's interesting. I mean, we're seeing some really strong performances, and we're not actually seeing, I thought we were going to see a lot more issue with the quick cars getting caught up in the traffic from people that are never going to be at the front end of the grid, that are going to be in their own championship battles further down the field. But actually, there's some really good times. Martin Plowman's time particularly, and that, of course, of Adi Suchek in the first segment to get into the 154s in difficult conditions, under pressure, limited amount of time. You've just got to go out and do the time.
Well, if OJ gets a chance to go and talk to Martin Plowman, it would be good to hear from the Brit, because that has been his big moment this season at GT Racing. There, number 19, Lamborghini, gets ready now for Q3, where it's going to have Fabio Babini behind the wheel. The resplendent Bentley's lined up, ready to go. Stephen Kane will take over 7. Maxi Bouk will go in 31. The drivers captioned at the moment are those that have just done the session rather than those that will do Q3. And the flag wave, the last few cars come through to try to set a time. The pit lane gets as busier and busier and busier and busier as more and more of the 55 strong field head down pit road.
So has, again, I think it's just moisture on the screens of the cars. That's why the wipers are on some are being used and others not. A lot of cloud hanging around, but none of it looks like it's threatening rain. But at the Nurburgring, you never know. You
exactly.
never know. I mean, it isn't cold enough for snow yet. But you never know.
But it's only 9:10. There's a lot of
You
day
never
left.
know.
Number 99 Mercedes, which now has the driver change. Out will get Steph Dusseldorf, and in will get the very quick Spanish driver, Danny Juncadella, defecting from a different Mercedes to this car for the weekend. And will be another very, very quick driver in the mix, I'm sure. And that car that came so close to a podium result at Spa, and then with what, an hour and a bit to go, had an engine drama and retired.
I mean, it was
very cruel.
I mean, even in the commentary booth, we felt for the Mercedes team. I mean, they had done a really good job. They'd gone through the hard yards of the night time and kept out of trouble and just metronomically lap upon lap upon lap. And then when there was, you know, they were possibly the third of the three options to win either Audi, BMW or Mercedes. But it would have taken so little for any one of those other two teams to have had a problem, and the Mercedes was just simply waiting to take that winner's podium, but it didn't happen.
There is Martin Plowman getting out of the car, fastest in Q2. And with his Justin Wilson badge there to remember the much missed British driver. You notice a number of the cars, that's one of them, with Justin Wilson crash helmet stickers on to remember him as well.
Yeah, so many of the drivers of that generation of Justin and many of them here in GT, they're very deeply upset by that sad event in Pocono nearly a month ago now, and showing their respect by carrying acknowledgements of their friend.
Now this is how we look if you take Q1 and Q2 together, so not in isolation. It's still Andy Soucek the fastest then, by 94 thousandths from Martin Plowman. Third now Robin Frins, ahead of the Steph Dusseldorf Mercedes. Fifth is the ISR Audi. Sixth quickest now Adrian Quaife Hobbs, after his efforts in that last session. Then you have the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. Robert Renauer is up to 7th, ahead of 58 Rob Bell at Von Ryan. 9th fastest is 23 Wolfgang Wright. The top 10 rounded out by Frank Schnippler. The rest of the order scrolls through, with the Lamborghinis yet to really shine. The 84 Bentley has fallen down the order a little bit, still relying on Vincent Abril's time to be 15th from earlier on. I still get the feeling as well that the Black Falcon Mercedes, another local team, has yet to show its hand, but it could all change this in Q3, where the pressure is going to be on, and that part of qualifying is just 2 minutes away really now from starting. All 55 cars have been seen now. Everybody has a time to their name. Mercuria Cost currently down 27th. Phoenix Racing's Audi down at 29th. That could be another one that should be improving in this next part of the session. And as far as the AM Cup is concerned at the moment, though, it's the 111 Ferrari ahead of the championship leading Audi of Parker Racing. Right then, Martin Plowman's been the real star of Q2, fastest in that session, and he's with OJ Borg.
Martin, great drive in that session, quickest in that qualifying period.
It was a great session. I mean, the guys gave me a great car, and it was a bit of a gamble because it was wet to start with, and I went out on old tyres, and just felt like the track was drying just enough where I thought we got to take a gamble and go for it, and go for brand new slicks. I went out, and that first lap just pushed as hard as they could, and nailed every corner, every apex. And when I looked down at the end of the lap, I saw the time, and I did a radio check to confirm that the beacon was working properly, because I didn't know that was the time that we could have done. But fantastic lap, fantastic car. I carried a Justin Wilson coin in my pocket, so that lap's for him. We're all sorely miss him, and hopefully I did him proud.
And you passed that coin on as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so I gave Craig the coin, so hopefully he can go a little bit quicker now and get us the pole.
So do you think the pole is possible in the car and the way it's feeling?
It is. I mean, our biggest weakness all year has been qualifying. We've always been outside the top 30, but race pace has been very strong. So hopefully we're going to flip that trend now and start at the front and stay there this time.
How frustrating is it that you've got the qualifying sorted in the final endurance race?
Well, better late than never, I'd say. I'm not sure what my plans are for next year. I don't have anything solid, to come back next year. But hopefully this proves that I deserve to be here, and the people that be, with the money, take notice and give me a chance to come back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Martin Plowman, the British driver, comes from Burton-on-Trent, but he's done the bulk of his racing abroad, so not very well known in the UK. From karting in mainland Europe, he went to the Italian Formula Renault Championship, the Formula Renault Euro Cup, then the Formula 3 Euro Series, and then went off to America. He's raced in Indy Lights, he's raced in IndyCar, the American Le Mans Series, so he's hardly done any racing really in Britain. He's a pretty much unknown British driver, but a good talent, and it would be a shame if we didn't have him back next year.
Yeah, and he's laid down a marker. I mean, he's done a great time within, what, 26 thousandths of a second of the best time overall so far. The pace obviously is there. I mean, jumping from the background that he's been in, principally in single-seaters or in lightweight prototype cars, into a heavy and relatively speaking low downforce GT car, it just doesn't happen overnight. But, as he said, I've done a good job. The pit lane will pay attention to this.
Absolutely right, and it's good to see that car going so well. The team fronted by Sean Walkinshaw, who has his own race team in single-seaters, but one of the sons of the late Tom Walkinshaw. Right, so Q3 is live. Everybody now goes pouring out on track. And this is where we'll get the final look at how the grid is going to be formed for the final 3-hour race of the season. A 3-hour sprint, really, isn't it?
Very much so. I mean, it will, well, it'll be a sprint for sure from the start for the first 3 or 4 rows. The rest of the grid will be like the worst traffic jam you're going to meet in any motorway for probably the best part of half an hour, until it gradually begins to settle down and space opens up. But it is an exceptionally busy track. It's a very full field. And I mean, these GT cars, the gap between the quickest and the slowest, maybe it's 4 seconds, 5 seconds at most. But the trouble is, you catch up behind one of those cars that's 5 seconds a lap slower than you are. They're quick as you in the straight line. The difference is maybe just they don't have the commitment in braking or the skill overall in the lap time. But just getting through those cars is going to be a problem, and you have to accept that you're going to have to be patient or wait for cooperation.
So 15 minutes for this final part of qualifying. You can see how much you lose even by getting out of the pits and finishing an out lap. So it's going to be about 10 minutes really before you're onto a flying lap, or complete a flying lap rather, the first one. People trying to warm up the tyres, the 2 RJN Nissans there running together. Alex Buncombe is in 23 now. And on board with Alex Buncombe then, his first flying lap, still tightening up his belts.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I wonder why normally those are pretty well tightened before you leave the pit lane, but sometimes when you move around in the seat, you just want to make sure that they are absolutely, you know, just get a little extra pinch on those belts to make sure that you are secure. Part of the car, part of the seat. Awful thing is to have your situation where you're sliding around and you have to then use additional purchase from your feet to give yourself that little bit of leverage. But out of turn 4 then, this, oh, and a little bit of back end movement from the Nissan as Alex Buncombe gets those 2 turbos lit up on the maximum torque coming from the V6 turbo engine. Down through 5. 5's really more about getting the car positioned for turn 6. Turn 6 is the critical corner of the 2 because it leads onto a part of the racetrack where you're getting up to 230, 40 kilometers per hour before big heavy braking down into turn 7. Easy to outbrake yourself. You'll see a lot of that, no doubt, through the race. Then up the hill, up through the gears. Is he flat? No, he's breathing it. He's got car ahead, so maybe that's part of the reason. And you can see this too. The Audi that he's overtaken still possibly on the night lap. Fastest first sector so far to Alex Buncombe on his first flying lap. But having to battle a car, I mean, it's that knife edge balance between grip and back end getting away from you isn't very far away through turn 12 per hour, and wow, over the curbs, pushing very hard. Fastest second sector as well. Don't blow it now in the final turn. Looks pretty good to me.
Fastest in Q3, but only a handful have done a flying lap, and straight away onto traffic. Traffic now as well.
Yes, and out of himself because the Mercedes is coming out of the pits and just sort of wandering around the racetrack. So Alex Buncombe has just bailed out of it, and he may go back into the pits. He's got 10 minutes remaining. You see now what is going to be more typical. You've got 7 or 8 cars all more or less line of stern into turn 1. Mercedes, which it was still, well, Dusseldorf's time 4th overall. So that car will be looking to see improvement of Daniel Juncadella now behind the wheel.
Yeah, he should be one to watch in this.
Would you say that Juncadella in pace is quicker than Dusseldorf, but not in experience?
It's hard to answer because he's had so little GT experience. It's his first year where Dusseldorf's done a lot more GT racing.
But he's coming out of DTM.
Yeah, he is.
Which is,
a lot more downforce category 3 before it. I think if he stayed on in GT racing, he would prove to be the quicker.
Craig Dolby, 154.752, fastest lap of the weekend today.
So that's pole position for number 173, quicker than the time from earlier on. And now Mirko Bortolotti, the very top outriders, one of the Lamborghini. Remember, lighter fuel load now, quicker driver in the car. So this, as we've been predicting, is where you'll see the grid formed. We've also got Jelmer Berman up to 3rd overall in the 21 Black Falcon Mercedes. So Danny Juncadella here is going to have to dig deep. Personal best in Sector 1. Dominic Schwager has got 66 Ferrari into the mix as well, 7th, but Juncadella working hard, just like Alex Buncombe was having to work hard. So Juncadella fighting the Mercedes a little bit. Sparks fly from underneath as he heads up now through the Ad Van Bogen towards the chicane. So Lamborghini topping the times. Mirko Bortolotti then is quickest. Craig Dolby 2nd. The margin is 17 one-thousandths of a second between them.
Stephen Kane fastest first sector in number 7 Bentley. Watch the Bentley.
Indeed so, as Juncadella is about to come up over the timing line. Let's see what that does for him. Goes through.
On board with number 7 up the hill. Exit turn 9. Fastest first sector, second sector time going to come up any second now. Well, almost any second now. We're still waiting for that any second now to appear on screen. Second sector time. I've run out of seconds.
It's any moment up towards the chicane, isn't it? Over that line, and he's down in the middle sector.
That's a real, it is a late set. I mean, I was running out of seconds. So all that effort by Stephen Kane in that first sector, 46.2 against a provisional would be best 46.0. It's got to get him up into the top 6. Currently that car is in, what's it's 4th. So he's gone up to 4th place.
Yeah, 4th in Q3, 5th overall,
yeah.
But he lost 6/10 in the middle sector alone.
The Hurricane.
This is the fastest car, Mirko Bortolotti then, who's done an absolute best personal best in the first sector, down in the second, personal best in the third, a new best in the lap time, 1:53.8, 2/10 up.
Isn't it looking even more beautiful when it's going in this speed?
Yeah, absolutely. Now what about Alex Buncombe? 2 personal bests here for Alex up the curb, coming out of the chicane. So this should be an improvement. 7th the car is at the moment. As long as he's neat and tidy up towards the line of 54.5 is what he's got to beat. Alex Buncombe comes towards the timing line now, goes 2nd fastest in the session, a 54.707, 2nd overall as well.
Well, who would have thought Nurburgring would turn out to be a Nissan circuit? 2nd and 3rd, the independent car, Sean Walkinshaw and Craig Dolby and Martin Plowman, and this, the sort of, you might call the factory car, the Nismo car, Alex Buncombe. And interesting field. And really, we're looking down the, where are the WRTIs? The first one is actually done in 8th place.
8th in this session,
yes.
But 9th overall, Robin Frins. And then 11th for number 2. There's 84 Mike Parisi ahead now of Lawrence Vantor. Now Vantor is 20th in Q3.
And he's not going to be very happy being behind. The Bentley, he's backed out of it just to give himself that little bit of space. And the whole thing of finding track space is such a big problem. Just under 6 minutes remaining. So the Belgian driver, he will be looking to think, where can I find a way past the Bentley? Yeah. It's about a second and a bit ahead of me, but I can run that.
Now, in number 2, personal best in the first sector. So Rochelmi looking as though he's going to be able to drag number 2 up the order a little bit on this lap. Heading up towards the end of the middle sector now as he goes over the timing line. 2 personal bests, so this car is 11th overall now. 11th when you take the 3 aspects of qualifying together. And Stefan Rosciami should be on for an improvement this time as he heads up now towards the end of the lap. There's traffic ahead, but it won't affect this lap as he's about to come over the timing line as he does so. Is that an improvement for him?
No, not a thing.
It is in the session. It's a 55.214, but 12th overall, so it's no better than an earlier lap time from Ortelli or Stippler.
Where are the Audis in these sessions then? We've got a Lamborghini, 2 Nissans, and Robin Freeman still the first of the Audis down in 9th overall over the 2 sessions. As we stand wait for the 3rd to correct that, but certainly over the 2 sessions, that's unusual. I mean, I know we always keep saying it.
Oops.
And there is one of them in the 99 in the gravel down at the bottom. I think that's done at the some of the egg pit, the fit turn, turn 15. Just we got back.
It was the number 3 Audi, not 99 Mercedes. There's 99 Mercedes finishing its lap. That was the Sebastian Loeb Racing Audi, operated this weekend by WRT, that was in strife. Here comes 99 then, Daniel Gadea over the timing line. 37th, it's not very exciting, is it? Struggling a bit at the moment. So what have we got left? 4 minutes within Q3.
And I suspect that everybody who's had a fresh set of rubber have had the best of it. And I'm not looking to see it. Maybe the 31 Bentley will wait and see whether it's done personal best in the first sector. Traffic again coming into play, and that's going to slow the car down into the final turn. So that's not really going to do very much for this car currently in this session, but it's just made a small improvement. It's up to 5th place, in fact, so it has made an improvement, but lost time as Malcolm Wilson looks timing and scoring on the Bentley pit lane, pit wall.
Yeah, that 5th and 6th overall, the Bentleys. It's not too bad.
No, it's an improvement. So
now 35 Christopher Meese in a big hurry, and that car is currently 10th in its class within the session, and he's done a personal best but then lost out in the middle sector. Christopher Meese, former Blancpain champion, these days racing in the Australian GT Series, comes up towards the timing line now, 54.5 to beat, and he does a 55.3, and off the road spectacularly has got number 4 Audi. That's at turn 17, and number 4 out of Pro-Am is in the wall. That should be Peter Schotthorst at the wheel of it, and the Dutchman, ex-Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland racer, is off the road spectacularly.
yeah, we've got a yellow flag now being shown with 2.5 minutes remaining. So how much contact, if he's made probably relatively light contact, but nonetheless it's in a critical part of the circuit because it's the final corner, and you must go through that segment of the circuit at a lower pace than your previous best
red
lap
flag
time, and it's okay. So session's finished in effect.
Red flag is shown then. The session stopped because of that car in a vulnerable position, and Peter Schotthorst is not going to be very popular with some, is he? Potentially he'll be the darling of Lamborghini if the session doesn't restart. There would just be time for an outlap and to get onto a flying lap for some, but not all. So what the race director elects to do, we will see. Session will not be resumed is the answer. The grid is formed then, and it is the Lamborghini of Mirko Bortolotti that is the fastest from Alex Bunkum's Nissan. 3rd, Craig Dolby's Nissan. 4th in the end, number 59, Alvaro Parent's McLaren. It's a great looking grid.
It's interesting. So an interesting grid, mixture of Lamborghinis, Nissans and McLaren front 2 rows.
So celebrations for Nissan because they've got Alex Bunkum on the front of the grid. And fastest Mirko Bortolotti, that's Captain Masaccio. Looking happy, looking relieved. Meantime, the Lamborghini squad for the GLT Grassa Racing team have got number 63 up to the very top, and that has been overshadowed a bit this year by the sister car, but Mirko Bortolotti has come good this morning. Great job done there. But 0.169 of a second is the margin between Bortolotti and Bunkum, and 45 thousandths between Bunkum and Dolby. It's incredibly tight.
Certainly is, and I mean, who could have predicted this grid? I mean, I think most people would have felt that there were others that are more favoured in terms of qualifying pace and the consistency of their qualifying. But great to see the Lamborghini on pole position. This is the car that dominated the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series in Monza in April, and then had that victory taken away because of a technical infringement, which was then obviously overruled just only about a month ago.
Nissan must be pretty pleased. Let's hear from Darren Cox of Nissan with OJ.
Darren, as qualifying sessions go, pretty successful.
It's good, but it's not quite Carlin. Yeah, we weren't on pole, but second place for Al, which was good. And almost more importantly, Gaetan stuck the Pro-Am car on pole, I think about 7th overall, which is astonishing. I mean, we forget this guy, this is his first season of racing. And, you know, the talent up and down the pit lane, whether you got Stifler, Senna, Caney, all these guys, and then you got this kid who's been his first season of racing, sticking it on pole and 7th overall in Pro-Am. So is for us front row with the pro car. I think the WRT boys struggled a little bit there. It's going to be a very, very interesting afternoon, and as usual at the ring, the weather's going to play a part. So, yeah, really exciting afternoon coming up.
And just talking about important question, how important is qualification and being on that front row here?
Well, I mean, it is important, but, you know, of course, we've seen here, as long really as you're in touch going into the then you've got a chance. So, you know, the WRT boys have got a few points on us, so it's for them to lose, really. You know, we're happy with that. We're calm, everyone's staying calm, and we'll just keep going around and hope.
Champions in that category by the end of the day?
You can't give me a yes or no answer. I think the favourites are obviously WRT, and we'll do our best. But, you know, first year in pro with a great global mix of drivers, you know, with doing a job for us as well. You know, if we're second in the championship, we'll be really happy with that, but we're racers, so we ain't. Basically, I've never heard Bob Neville saying we're going to go for the win today. Normally he's very conservative, but, you know, we just got to go and win and see what happens to the WRT boys.
Sort of a yes. Thank you, Darren.
Cheers.
Yes, it's an impossible answer to give. If you say no or you say yes, whatever way you're going to do it, you're going to get egg on your face one way or the other. And Darren covered all his bets, all his options. But it is an interesting grid, and of course, I believe that, assuming we've got a dry day, being in the front row of the grid has got to be a massive advantage, and you've got to make it stick.
So if you can bolt away, then you're going to be well placed. But this is how we line up then, with Mirko Bortolotti's Lamborghini the fastest. Second fastest, Alex Buncombe. Third, Craig Dolby. So 2 Nissans from different teams in the top 3. Fourth, Von Ryan's McLaren. Alvaro Parent ahead of Jelmer Berman's Mercedes. Then Max Buch ahead of Stephen Kane. The 2 Bentleys well placed. 8th overall in fairness, but Pro-Am pole 2 ahead of the really jumbled 5 cars on HTP's Bentley, and the rest.
Hours is long. We have the pole in 36 win, but
Last endurance race around the track.
Or to compare Monza, which is nothing but a high-speed out-and-out blast around Monza, and here at Nurburgring, where you've got a very busy racetrack, and totally different in terms of concept. So the Lamborghini on pole here and winning, of course, at Monza, but you know, 3 hours of GT racing later in the afternoon. 2:45 the race starts.
A quick look back at some of the highlights of qualifying. Sally Yolok had his spin early on, and others had to scatter in avoidance as they came onto the pit straight. That brought out briefly a full course yellow. And in Q1, drivers looking for a banker lap more than anything else, not entirely sure the first part. And other good efforts were put in by Katsu Masachio in 23. And the Nissan, another car that has been competitive all the way through qualifying. A very, very busy pit lane at the start of Q2 as everybody poured out, and there was a spin early for the number 70 Mercedes. That slithered out of harm's way. Everybody scattered around it. Over the timing line, cars blasted as they went for a time. The road getting quicker all the time, the fuel load coming down, and Bentley was seeing its 2 cars work up the order. Frank Stippler was trying hard in the middle part of qualifying. A couple of off-track dramas for him, and 98 Mercedes sparked its way through. Martin Plowman and Craig Dolby shone in number 173 to put the car 3rd overall by the end of the qualifying period. Danny Juncadeo was hard at work as well in number 99 Mercedes, the car that could, for Steph Dusseldorp and Nico Bastien, take the crown. So it's been a very jumbled grid, and we end with this car on pole position, the Mirko Bortolotti driven Lamborghini Huracan, and that start the race from pole position. Join us for the last round of the Blancpain Endurance Series later in the day. For now, from us all at Nurburgring, bye for now.